Hi Tribe, welcome back to my channel. Kenna Mapalo Maku. Today I want us to talk about credit score and credit report and how to build a good credit score. Okay, so first things first, what is a credit report? Your credit report is basically a report that you get from all the other credit bureaus, and it shows your behavior with debt. Basically, it shows you how you have handled debt in the past. And I know it's a bit of a weird concept that to access debt you have to have debt, and yet we're always telling you that you should stay out of debt. It's a little bit of confusing concept. But imagine this: if Pam were to come to me and tell me, hey Mapalo, can you lend me 10k? I'm more likely to lend Pam 10k because I know her, I know where she stays, I know the type of person she is, I know her character. Versus if some Tom, Dick, and Harry just came to me and said, hey, can you lend me 10k? I'd be like, who are you? I need some sort of proof that you are going to pay me back, right? And that's exactly what your credit report is. It's showing that you have been good with your payments, you have paid on time, you have paid the amount that you say you're going to pay, and you haven't missed payments from one month to another. So it literally just reflects how well you have handled debt in the past. That's all, okay? And your credit score does not necessarily mean that you have money. Just because you qualify does not necessarily mean that you can afford something, all right? It's just a number that says, oh, okay, this person is trustworthy, they pay on time, and they pay the right amount consistently, not just, some months things are happening, okay? So why do we need to access credit, right? There are two reasons normally people do access credit. Number one is it's to buy a house. Number two, to buy a car, right? Those are the biggest purchases that normally people will take on in their financial life. So most of the time, you don't have cash sitting to go buy a 1 million rent house, 2 million rent house, 4 million rent house. So what do? You go to the bank and say, hey, can you provide me with a bond? I'll pay per month, I'll pay monthly to make sure that I have the house of my dreams, right? So the bank, the first thing that they will do, they will look at your credit score. They will say, okay, how well have you done with your other payments in the past? If your payment patterns are off, they will either decline you the credit or the bond altogether, or the one that they catch people on is that your interest rate, the interest rate that they're going to offer you is going to be much higher than that of a person who has a good credit score. And the same thing applies with a car. If you appear here and you're like, oh no, I want to buy my dream car, or I want to buy a car, and you go to the bank, the first point where they're going to go to is your credit score. If it's poor, they will either decline you the access to financing altogether, or your interest rate is going to be that much higher. And remember, this is where things get very expensive. The higher the interest rate on any type of debt that they charge you, you best believe that thing's going to be more expensive. Actually, normally when I do my webinars or my speaking engagements, I always ask people and say, okay, you have all this debt, right? And you know how much you're paying per month. But do you know the interest rate that is being charged on that debt? Normally people are like, no, not really. Then it really shows that you do not know what your debt is costing you, okay? So if the highest interest rate that you're paying towards any debt is 23%, you know that that debt is the most expensive one you do have. So I think really it's just it's about being aware of what all these tiny decisions, they become a big thing. It's all these tiny decisions that we have to take when it comes to our money, all right? So that's the first thing. How do you then build a good credit score, okay? And it's simple. It's really simple. Oftentimes when we talk about credit score, and people are like, no, how do I make it better? Pay. If you said you're going to pay on the first, there must be money on the first in your account, okay? If it bounces already that's a red flag. It is going to show on the credit report. If for whatever reason then later you pay, it shows also, right? So you need to pay back the money, and you need to do so consistently, every month in, month out. And the worst thing that people do is when they're experiencing financial trouble, they duck, put their head in the sand, and hopefully somehow one day when they come out, things would be better. When it comes to your finances, please do not ever do that. Service providers would rather have you call them and say, hey, things are a little bit shaky right now. Things are taking in my life right now. Is there some sort of a payment plan that we can work out until I am strong on my financial feet again? All right. And yes, it will impact how much you pay in the long term, but by not communicating, you will destroy your credit score. Okay. Because remember, whenever you access credit, that's the first thing anybody ever looks at. And if it's poor, people will either decline you altogether, or you're going to pay really, really high interest rates. Okay. So I think that's the key thing, that we do access credit because normally we don't have cash to buy things like a house or a car cash. And yeah, some people, they do have, you do have your store clothing accounts. Those things, the interest rate on those things sometimes just so ridiculous. It's one of the worst, I think, when it comes to any form of debt, because of the interest rate that they make you pay. Yes, I know they have some deals to say, oh no, within 6 months you don't have to pay if you've taken something. Now you've won this thing. You have won it over and over and over. I mean, I've been wearing this kimono. I've been wearing it, but I'm still paying for it 6 months later. No, guys, we need to learn patience, and we need to just say, okay, you know what? I'm going to save for this thing, or maybe I don't even need it. All right. So your credit score, also how you can maintain and keep a good credit score, is by taking on less than you can actually afford. Okay. The problem is oftentimes when the bank or the credit, someone who gives you access to credit, they tell you qualify, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, perfect, I'm going to max it out. No, that's their job. Their job is to do sales so that you can pay and pay and pay and pay. Your job, even before you go to the bank to access credit, know exactly how much you need. This is where the temptation comes in. You will say, oh, okay, no, I need 5K. When you get there, they're like, no, actually, you know what? Ma'am, we can see that you're good. We can see that you're good. And they will give you access to 20,000, 30,000. And what do people do? They take it. They take it. I mean, if the bank, this institution can trust me that, I can pay the money back, clearly I can afford it. Please never ever do that, because really that's just setting yourself at like a massive trap. All right. And I'll give you an example. Actually, one of the questions I got on my DMs, and I know, especially if you're qualifying as a CA, you're qualifying at some degree that has potential to for you to make money. This other guy, he said that, you know what, I just qualified as a doctor, and they have this, what do you call it? Like a day where,
a career day.
Like a career day type of thing. Then people are doctors. They have all these banks, all these financial institutions. Yes, there are products that can definitely help you achieve your goals. So I'm not dismissing that everyone is bad, but he says that one of the things, they gave them credit cards. They signed them up and said, hey, no, you qualify for a credit card. And this person is like, you don't even know how much I'm going to get paid. But they're banking on your future earnings. So already, even before you start your life, you're already in debt, So please be aware of this sort of traps that are set out for you from the get-go. And that's how people start their lives. Already you have a credit card, even before you finish varsity, even before your first salary, and already, you're just trying to play catch up. Now you want an apartment because everybody's buying apartments. Now you need furniture, and everything now is bought on credit. So please, whatever you do, make sure that you only take on what you can actually really afford. And I always say, how you know you can afford something is that you can pay it off within a month. If you can't pay it off within a month, you're playing the wrong game. Okay? Look at your salary and say, if things were to go down, would I be able to pay this credit card off within a month? If the answer is no, you need to go back to the drawing board. All right. So another reason why you should check your credit score is not only because you want to access credit. Another very important thing is you want to make sure that there is no fraudulent stuff happening under your name. There is identity theft, and people are getting smarter, right? They have your ID, they have a couple of more details that they can piece together about you. Next thing, you go and you say, no, I've been good, I haven't accessed a lot of credit, I'm prudent. You get there, your credit report, one of the things that will show you is if there's someone who's spending money under your name. And I always give this example that I was doing a webinar and because someone said, no, but I don't need to check my credit score because I'm not buying anything that needs me to access credit. I said, ma'am, you have to check your credit score more than not just when you are going to access credit, because people will be spending money under your name. And lo and behold, she went and checked. Someone had spent 7,000 at Ackermans, and she's like, I haven't even opened an account. So now it's a whole process where you have to go to the POPO, get an affidavit. It's a mess. And sometimes it can even be larger amounts. You are being prudent, you're doing the right thing, and yet someone is balling under your ID. Okay, so remember, it's not just about, okay, I want to access credit. It's also about looking at identity theft and making sure that the right information is captured there. And sometimes what does happen is, let's say you pay off a debt, right? For some reason it didn't get cleared and whatnot, so your credit score or your credit report will tell you that, okay, these people have the right information or the wrong information, and you can try and rectify it as soon as possible. Okay, but the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to your credit report, where can you get your credit report? Remember, you are allowed by law one free mahala, okay, one free credit report every single year from all the 4 credit bureaus. Okay, so you can get one from this one, it's free. You can get one from this one, it's free. Okay, and I would actually prefer to check my credit score twice a year. All right, so you can get your credit score, your credit report from TransUnion, Experian, CompuScan, and XDS. And yes, I know people say ClearScore and whatnot, but those people also pull the information from the 4 that I've mentioned. Those are the 4 credit bureaus in the country. And I actually watched, what do you call it, Pam's favorite influencer, Adrian, yeah. And she was talking about how she didn't know that she had to build up her credit score. So she was making all of this money, and I think it was the first time she was getting herself an apartment. They looked at the credit score, it was non-existent. And they were like, no. And she was like, but I have money. So yes, you can be, like I said, prudent. Even with myself, most of the things I buy them cash. But obviously a house, of course, I'm not going to be able to buy it cash at this point. So you do have to build your credit score for such things. Okay, so be aware of what your credit score is. Try and improve it by making sure that you make your payments on time, in time, that amount that you agreed on. Never miss payments. If you're going through financial trouble, do contact your creditor so that you can try and work out a plan until you're okay. All right, so I hope light in terms of how to build your credit score, how to improve it, and how to keep it in tip-top shape, and why you need to check your credit report at least twice a year. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.